The street violence that we've been witnessing on the streets of Portadown, Ballymena, parts of Belfast, Larne, all over the place last week. So-called race riots seems to have died down this week, which is good. No one wants to see their communities being smashed up. No one wants to see their communities being destroyed. But the blame game is in full swing here. Fingers of blame pointing here, there, and everywhere. What caused this? Who are the instigators? What's it really all about? And everybody seems to have weighed in with their opinion. And there's very few voices out there that are actually speaking up for the victims of crimes and urging something to be done about the root causes of many of the problems we're facing in society today. One of whom is Jim Allister, the leader of the TUV Party in Northern Ireland, or the traditional Unionist voice, a party very many people don't like, may not like him personally, may hate the guy personally, some people, but you can't take away from what he's saying in many instances when he's calling out the massive demographic shift that has occurred in Ballymena, for example, over the last 10 to 15 years. That arguably is a huge contributory factor to some of the violence and incidents that we've been seeing happening on the streets over the last week or so. And I'm not condoning any violence, don't encourage any violence, sad to see any violence. Grew up in a violent society from 1973 when I was born right up until between 1994 and 1998 when it ceased. It's all I ever knew growing up was bombings, shootings, burnings and violence coming left, right and center. So I don't celebrate when I see disorder, and I don't celebrate when I see chaos and destruction. But it's there. And we're going to hear Jim this morning, or he was interviewed last night by a member of ITV News, and he kicked this so-called reporter or journalist into touch when she tried to deflect away from the things and the issues that he was bringing up. So we're going to hear Jim right now talk about policing, talk about demographic change in Ballymena, for example, and wherever you're listening from, all across Ireland, north, south, east, west, and slap bang in the middle, I'm sure some of the words of Jim Allister will resonate with you as he talks about massive demographic changes within local communities that have caused a lot of tension and a lot of unrest and are not being addressed by so-called politicians. So listen to what he has to say and leave me your thoughts, comments, and opinions as always below. Incredible cross-section of opinion on this channel, especially in the comments boxes below the videos. Feel free to dump your opinions, no matter what they are. Okay, you don't have to agree with anything I say. You could disagree with all of it. Leave me your comments below. We're not going to agree on everything about every issue, or disagree about everything on every issue. So have your say and leave your comments below. But anyway, I've waffled on long enough for now. Let's listen to Jim shooting from the hip.
MP for the area, and I also understand you're under a bit of time pressure for us this evening. The Chief Constable has said in his interview with View from Stormont tonight that now is not the time to politicise what has been going on. But that is exactly what has happened, isn't it?
Well, I think it's almost inevitable, but I agree with the Chief Constable that Stormont has let him down. There's been a lamentable failure in the funding of policing. Stormont had other less important priorities, and now we're reaping some of that. And I trust if anything comes out of this, it will be a wakening up by Stormont as to the need to properly fund the police. As to what happens hereafter, we cannot just shrug our shoulders and move on. I'm glad the violence has subsided. I trust it remains so. But government has questions to answer. They have questions to answer as to how and why migration into Northern Ireland has simply had a blind eye approach, why it has been allowed to accumulate in areas
so
like...
You're conflating, and this is the part of the danger.
And here we have the main issue. When someone brings up a legitimate concern, what he believes is a massive contributing factor to us getting to the position that we were in last week. The paid-for government hack representing ITV News wades in straight away. Oh, you're conflating this, you're conflating that. The man's trying to explain how in that particular area things could have gotten to the point that they're at. And instead of giving him space to speak, immediately shut down. You're conflating this, you're conflating that, you shouldn't be saying this or that. Listen to what he says. He comes back with a great comeback here.
With this, you are conflating different issues and relating something that isn't supposed, you shouldn't be relating to what has gone on the last week, and that is what you've been criticised for, as have others.
Oh, so you're going to answer the questions we always ask them. You know, if we're going to learn anything out of this, then we'll have to learn that you cannot ignore issues that are causing difficulties in community. And it is a very live and persistent issue, and has been for some time, the over-concentration, particularly of Roma, in a part of Ballymena. The census statistics prove it beyond all doubt, and it is something now that government has to deal with. And it has to deal with it on the basis that there is an open border from the Republic, which allows all Eastern Europeans who are EU citizens to come into Northern Ireland.
Mr. Allister, we are talking about, the Chief Constable spoke earlier about...
There you have it again. As soon as he starts spitting facts out, this is a problem that's been going on for years. This is a problem that has been ignored. This is a problem to do with the free flow of people across Ireland, north, south, east and west, coming into the country, moving around within the country. And a blind eye is being turned at now. We're at this point now, and again, she weighs in and tries to cut him down, trying to deflect away from what he's bringing up as one of the contributory factors to put us in the position we were in last week.
Racial hatred, that is what it was on our streets, yes, in Ballymena and in other places, pure and simple.
Yes, and the Chief Constable has a duty, like the guards. If you're travelling from Northern Ireland to the Republic, you will regularly see the guards pull in minibuses and check the credentials, the visas, the passports of those who are passing into the Republic. You never see that coming into Northern.
Actually, you know, I'll jump in there myself. Does that happen, Jim? Does that happen? Are the guards stringent when people are minibusing it from Belfast down towards Dublin? Are buses being pulled in? Are credentials being checked? Are they really? That's not the reports that we're getting from Dublin, from Dundalk, from all over the south. Doesn't seem to be the case. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's certainly not happening rigorously, and it's certainly not happening in every instance. Are the guards as lax as the PSNI, the Police Service of Northern Ireland? Leave your comments below. Is it just, are they both just turning a blind eye? Are the guards, he's actually saying the guards are more on the ball. It's not a criticism of An Garda Síochána. He's actually saying that the Gardaí are more on the ball than the PSNI. Are they? Are they? I don't know. I don't have figures for stop and searches and vehicular checkpoints. But what do you think? Is Jim on the ball here, or is he talking out of his pipe?
Around. And that is how we've had a build-up of legal and illegal immigrants into Northern Ireland. And anyone who wants to bury their head in the sand...
Very small, Mr. Allister. I think when you look at the...
you think that's very small? Let me give you some figures. Between 2011 and 2021, which is the census period, there was an increase of non-nationals into this small area of Ballymena by 52%. Those figures are already out of date because that was 4 years ago.
So in 10 years, one particular area in Ballymena had an increase of 52% of people coming in from outside the parish. And she tries to say that it's just small numbers here, small numbers there.
And that has continued. It's continued with the busing of Romas from Dublin to Ballymena. Now, I know the area. I represent the area. I'm not going to close my eyes to that. But let me be clear. None of that justifies violence or the threatening of violence. One of my biggest regrets in this is that the focus has been taken off the fact that at the heart of this was a young girl who was seriously sexually assaulted. And it's not...
How many other politicians have you heard saying that? How many? How many other politicians have you heard bringing it all back to the victims of these heinous crimes that were perpetrated that ultimately set this whole rigmarole in motion last week? How many? Name them in the comments below. Name them for me. Or how many of them have completely ignored the victims in the first instance? So fair play, Jim, for that.
It's not the first one. We had some people charged
Okay.
last year with organising prostitution from that area. We've had people
Mr.
convicted of
Allister, thank you.
gangmaster offences in that area. All
Okay.
those issues
Someone
need to be
shut him
addressed.
down
Okay,
again because he's
Paul,
right over the target. You see that? That's the way it works. That's the way it works. So that's just a little update on this. Things are still tense over here. Very tense. It wouldn't take much to flare up again. Things are very volatile indeed, and nobody wants to see that. But when people are coming out addressing all of the contributing factors to what may have caused what happened last week, it doesn't help that you have a so-called media, legacy media or mainstream media that's happy to dismiss or shut down anything at all that doesn't fall in line with government narratives. So, as usual, thank you for watching this video. Thank you for all your comments on previous videos. I know a lot of people come back to this channel repeatedly. Thank you for that. Keep watching, keep commenting. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumbs down. Doesn't matter to me. But subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and consider joining the channel if you haven't already done so. But for now, I'm Rick Munn. This is No Risk, No Reward Media. Over and out.